The night sky of Codex Prime burned red. Smoke rose from broken ships scattered across the valley, and the wind carried the smell of fire and metal. Human engineer Eli Cross walked slowly between the wrecks, his suit light flickering in the dust. His mission was simple: recover energy cells and leave before dawn. But something in the silence felt wrong. The war between humans and the Tigress clans had ended days ago, yet the ground still trembled under his boots. He moved through the ruins, listening to the crackle of fire and the whisper of wind. Then a sound stopped him. A cry, soft, weak, and alive. Eli froze. It wasn't human. It sounded like a mix of a kitten and a child. He turned his scanner toward the sound, faint life signs very close. Carefully he followed it through the twisted metal and ash until he found a broken escape pod half buried in the mud. Inside, under a piece of torn blanket, something moved. He knelt. There, lying motionless, was a small alien creature. It looked like a cub. Feline, silver fur covered in ash, its chest barely rising. Its eyes, golden and glassy, flickered open as Eli's light fell across its face. He could see fear, confusion, and pain. Hey, easy, Eli whispered, lowering his weapon. I'm not going to hurt you. The cub made a weak sound, a tiny growl that broke into a cough. Its breathing was shallow. One leg was twisted, blood staining the ground beneath. Eli's training screamed at him. Do not interfere with alien species. Do not touch. Galactic Law Section 9. Violation punishable by court-martial. But then he saw its eyes again. Wide, desperate. He remembered the evacuation years ago on Titan. The little girl who didn't make it because he had waited for orders. Not this time. He took off his gloves and reached out, wrapping his hand around the cub's small body. It was cold, too cold. You're just a baby, he muttered. You don't even understand what's happening, do you? He opened his pack, found his emergency ration, protein paste, something bland but full of nutrients. He dipped his fingers and held them near the cub's mouth. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a small tongue flicked out, weak but hungry. That's it, Eli said softly, smiling. Come on, you can do this. The cub started licking the food, slow but steady. Then it gave a faint purr, a trembling vibration against his hand. The sound made his chest tighten. In that moment, the cold battlefield felt alive again. He cleaned its wound with his water supply, wrapping it with a strip of his sleeve. The cub winced but didn't pull away. When he looked up, he realized how dark the valley had become. The sun of Codex Prime had long fallen, and the twin moons now cast pale light across the broken land. Something howled in the distance. Eli froze. The scanner flashed, movement detected. Several large signals, fast predators. Not good, he whispered. He looked at the cub, which had already curled up against his chest, trembling. Its small claws caught on his uniform like it was holding him for safety. He lifted it carefully and ran toward a nearby ridge. He found an overturned pod and crawled inside, sealing the hatch behind him. The air was stale, but at least it was shelter. He placed the cub on his chest, feeling its heartbeat through his suit. You picked the wrong planet to be born on, little one, he whispered. But you're safe now. The cub pressed closer and let out a faint hum. Eli smiled, eyes heavy with exhaustion. Outside, the wind screamed and strange shadows moved past the cracks in the metal. Hours passed. Eli woke to the sound of heavy steps. The metal walls shook with each thud. He held his breath, slowly turning off his light. Through the slit in the hatch, he saw a massive shape moving across the mist. Two bright eyes glowed, amber like fire. His pulse quickened. The cub stirred suddenly, sensing something. It gave a tiny cry, a sharp, high-pitched sound that echoed in the dark. The shape outside stopped. Eli cursed under his breath. He covered the cub's mouth, but it was too late. The ground shook as the creature approached. The fog parted, revealing something enormous, nearly 3 meters tall, covered in golden black fur, armor plates running along her shoulders. A tigress, but unlike any he had seen in the war. Regal, fierce, eyes burning with intelligence. She sniffed the air, her gaze falling on the escape pod. Eli gripped his blaster, heart pounding, but before he could react, the cub wriggled free and let out a soft mew, one that sounded painfully familiar to the creature outside. The tigress stopped. Her ears twitched. Then she let out a roar so powerful it cracked the metal shell of the pod. Eli stumbled back, shielding the cub. The roar wasn't anger, and it was grief. She clawed open the wreckage like it was paper. Light poured in, and for a moment Eli was face to face with a being of raw strength and beauty, her fur shining under the twin moons, her eyes full of fire and tears. In her gaze, he saw recognition. She looked at the cub now weakly reaching toward her, and then at Eli, the strange creature holding her child. Her voice was a deep growl. "Human, what have you done?" Eli raised his hand slowly. I found it like this. It was dying. I only wanted to help." She stepped closer, towering over him. The ground shook with every step. Her claws gleamed, sharp as blades. "Our cubs die in battle. They do not beg humans for food." Eli's voice broke. "Then maybe they shouldn't have to die at all." The tigress's eyes flickered. For a second, she seemed uncertain. She looked down at the cub, who crawled from Eli's arms and tried to stand, wobbling. It let out a soft purr, the same sound it made before. The queen, because there was no mistaking her authority, knelt beside it. Her expression changed, from rage to sorrow, then to something Eli couldn't name. Her huge hand hovered above the cub, afraid to touch it. "You fed it?" she asked quietly. "Yes," Eli whispered. "Human food. It was all I had." She leaned in, scanning the cub with a small device on her wrist. Her eyes widened. The reading showed stable vitals, stronger than before. The impossible had happened. The cub had survived. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Only the soft wind and the sound of the cub breathing filled the air. Then the queen stood tall again, her armor glowing faintly in the moonlight. Her soldiers appeared from the mist, a dozen Tigress warriors armed and fierce. They aimed their weapons at Eli instantly. The queen raised her hand. "Hold your fire!" The soldiers froze. She turned back to Eli, her voice calm but full of power. "You should not have touched it. But you did. And you saved royal blood." Eli blinked. "Royal blood?" The queen's eyes narrowed. "You fed the heir of the Tigress throne." "My child," the air turned cold. Eli felt his heart drop. He looked at the cub, the same small creature that had slept on his chest, and then at the massive figure before him. The Tigress queen's gaze locked on him. "By our law, the one who feeds royal blood becomes bound to the royal line. You are part of my clan now, human." Eli took a step back, speechless. The cub purred again, wrapping its tail around his wrist. He realized there was no going back. From the moment he fed that dying cub, his fate was sealed. And above the broken battlefield of Codex Prime, under the red sky and twin moons, began a story that would change the galaxy forever. The dawn light spread slowly over Codex Prime, painting the battlefield gold and red. Smoke still rose from broken machines and cracked stones. Eli Cross stood among alien soldiers, tall striped warriors with glowing eyes and heavy armor. Their spears of plasma pointed directly at his chest. The Tigress queen, towering and majestic, stood before him. Her silver armor shimmered under the twin suns, and her eyes, bright amber and deep with power, watched him like a judge before passing sentence. Her voice came out low and sharp. "Human, you touched my cub. You fed her. You claim you saved her life. Yet your species brought this war. Why should I believe you did not harm her for gain?" Eli's heart raced, but he did not lower his gaze. "Because I didn't think of war. I only saw a dying child," the words echoed in the cold air. The Tigress soldiers growled, their tails lashing in anger. To them, a human saving their royal blood was an insult, an impossibility. The queen stepped closer. Her shadow covered him. She studied his face, then turned to her cub, now sitting weakly in her arms. The small creature looked healthier than before, its silver fur shining, eyes open and curious. The queen looked down at her child, then back at Eli. "Your food healed her. Your warmth kept her heart beating," Eli said softly. "It wasn't planned. I just couldn't walk away." The queen's gaze softened for the first time. "Our medics said she could not survive the night. They said her pulse had stopped. She was still fighting," Eli said. "All she needed was someone who didn't give up." A long silence followed. Even the wind seemed to wait. Finally, the queen raised her hand. Her soldiers hesitated, confused. Then she gave a deep growl, an order. "Lower your weapons." The warriors obeyed. Eli stood there, breathing hard, trying to understand what had just happened. The queen approached him again, her steps slow and deliberate. "You broke our laws," she said, "yet perhaps you reminded us what we forgot." She looked down at her cub again. The small creature reached for Eli, letting out a soft purr that made the queen's jaw tighten with emotion. "She chooses you," she said. Eli blinked. "Chooses me? In our law," the queen explained, her voice quieter now. "The one who feeds royal blood is forever bound to it. You gave her life. You are now part of her fate and mine." Eli took a step back, shaking his head. "I didn't mean to." "I'm not one of you. I'm just a mechanic," the queen tilted her head. "You are more than that. You showed mercy when we saw only enemies." One of the Tigress generals roared in protest. "My queen, he is human. The destroyers of worlds. You cannot honor him." The queen's eyes turned cold again. "Silence, Farkor. The human did what none of us dared. He fed our dying blood. You will not speak against the law." The soldiers bowed, though their eyes burned with anger. The queen turned back to Eli. "You will come with us to the capital," she said. "There you will face our council. They will decide your place." Eli nodded slowly. He had no choice. But when he looked at the cub again, resting peacefully in her mother's arms, he felt a strange calm. The journey to the Tigress capital, Zarathan, took a day and a night. The queen's army moved across endless golden plains, their banners fluttering in the wind. The alien world was alive with beauty, crimson grass floating crystals, and rivers glowing under the twin suns. Eli rode in a hover transport beside the queen. He kept quiet, feeling small among these towering beings. The cub often peeked from her mother's arms, reaching for him with a curious paw. "She likes you," the queen said suddenly, breaking the silence. Eli smiled faintly. "I think she just likes food." For the first time, the queen almost smiled too. "Her name is Sira. It means light in the storm." "That's beautiful," Eli said quietly. "It was her father's choice," the queen replied, her eyes darkening. "He fell in battle against your kind." Eli lowered his head. "I'm sorry." She looked at him, studying his face again. "You are strange, human. You apologize for something you did not do." Eli sighed. "Someone has to." The queen said nothing more, but her expression softened. When they arrived at the capital, the sight took Eli's breath away. The city rose like a crown from the plains. Giant towers shaped like claws reaching toward the clouds and bridges carved from living stone. At the center stood a vast golden hall glowing like a star. Inside, the Council of Claws awaited, the 12 leaders of the Tigress clans. They stood tall on their platforms, eyes full of judgment. The queen entered with Sira in her arms and Eli walking behind her. The murmurs began immediately. "A human? Here. He defiled royal law. He must be executed before the sun set." Eli clenched his fists, but the queen raised her hand. The hall fell silent. "This human," she said, "fed my dying child when we had lost hope. His actions broke our laws but saved my bloodline. I bring him here to be judged, not for crime, but for courage." The council leader, an ancient tigress with silver scars, spoke slowly. "You claim his food healed royal blood. Prove it." The queen turned to Sira. The cub stood on her lap, alive, bright, and strong. She gave a playful growl and leapt into Eli's arms. The council gasped. "She chooses him," someone shouted. The queen nodded. "By our oldest law, that bond cannot be broken. The child has chosen her protector." The hall filled with growls of disagreement. But then the oldest of the council raised her staff. "The law is clear. The one who feeds the royal blood becomes part of the royal line. We cannot deny it." Eli looked confused. "Wait, what does that mean?" The queen looked at him. "It means you are now guardian to my daughter. You live as one of us. You answer to our laws." Eli blinked. "You mean I'm not your prisoner?" The queen stepped closer, her golden eyes gleaming. "No, human. You are under my protection." He stood silent, unable to speak. The hall around him filled with whispers, some angry, some amazed. The council leader finally spoke again. "Then it is settled. The Codex shall record this moment. The pact of life between human and tigress is reborn." That night, Eli stood on the balcony of the queen's palace, looking at the alien stars. The city shimmered below like fireflies in motion. He could still feel the weight of everything that had happened. The war. The cub, the queen's eyes when she spoke of trust. He didn't belong here, yet he didn't want to leave. Behind him, he heard soft steps. The queen approached, wearing a robe of dark gold. The cub, Sira, slept peacefully in her arms. "She won't rest unless you're near," the queen said, walking beside him. Eli smiled faintly. Guess she's just used to my heartbeat. The queen watched him for a long time. You are different from the humans I've known. I'm not sure that's good or bad, he replied. She looked out at the stars. It is rare for any race to act without reason. You saved life that was not yours. That is something even we forgot. Eli looked at her, the glow of the stars reflecting in her eyes. Maybe war made everyone forget. For a moment, the great queen of Codex Prime looked less like a ruler and more like a mother. Perhaps, she whispered, but because of you, my daughter lives. For that, your name will not be forgotten. She placed a heavy golden pendant in his hand, shaped like a tiger's claw, engraved with strange alien runes. This marks you as guardian of the royal blood, she said. Wear it with honor, human. Eli stared at it, speechless. I don't know what to say. The queen smiled faintly. Then say nothing. Just remember that even in this vast galaxy, kindness is a language every heart understands. The wind blew softly, carrying the scent of strange flowers. The cub stirred in her mother's arms, purring in her sleep. Eli looked out at the sky again. The stars seemed closer now, brighter. For the first time in years he felt hope, not for himself, but for both their worlds. Far beyond the horizon, the ancient codex of the Tigress race recorded new words that night. On the battlefield of ruin, a human fed life to the dying. The bond between predator and prey broke the law of blood. Thus began the Codex Prime Pact, the day mercy became stronger than war. The sons of Codex Prime rose over the golden towers of Zarathan, bathing the capital in light. Morning bells echoed from the palace spires as the city awakened. Inside the great halls, human engineer Eli Cross still struggled to understand his new life. He was no longer a soldier. No longer just a man wandering the ruins. He was now something far more dangerous and sacred. The guardian of the Tigress air. Everywhere he walked, alien eyes followed him, some with curiosity, some with anger. The Tigress people were proud and fierce. They had never bowed to any other race. For them, a human standing beside their queen was an insult to their blood. Yet the queen had declared it law, and law among the Tigress was stronger than emotion. The unfamiliar palace Eli's quarters were grand yet cold. Stone walls carved with glowing runes surrounded him. From the balcony he could see the horizon stretch endlessly. Glowing rivers, floating beasts gliding in the distance and spires piercing the clouds. He missed the smell of engine oil and the hum of human ships, but when he looked down at his wrist he saw a small claw-marked bracelet, a gift from Sira, the royal cub he had saved. It reminded him why he stayed. That morning the great doors opened with a hiss. A tall Tigress warrior stepped in, golden fur scar across her cheek, eyes like sharpened amber. I am Captain Ryla, commander of the Queen's Guard, she said. Her tone was flat. My queen orders you to attend the council ceremony. Eli nodded. Do they still hate me? Ryla's tail flicked. They hate easily, but they obey the queen. She led him through long corridors past alien murals showing battles that spanned centuries. Everywhere the story was the same. Conquest, survival, pride. The Tigress people believed in strength above all. Compassion was seen as weakness. And yet, in the center of that culture, a human had become the living symbol of mercy. The council's uneasy silence. The great hall was filled with roaring voices. Dozens of clan leaders argued under the glowing banners. When Eli entered, silence fell instantly. The queen, Sarathra, stood at the top of the dais, her golden crown shining. Beside her sat Sira the cub, watching everything with wide eyes. Sarathra lifted a hand. Let the Codex record today's judgment. The human guardian will speak. Eli stepped forward, feeling the weight of 1,000 alien stares. I didn't come here to change your laws, he began. I just want to make sure no child, human or tigress, dies because of pride. A growl rippled through the room. One elder slammed his claw on the floor. We do not need lessons in mercy from prey. Eli met his gaze calmly. Then maybe prey are stronger than you think, gasps echoed. The council murmured in shock. But the queen didn't move. Her expression was unreadable. Finally, she spoke. Enough. Her voice thundered like a storm. The human speaks with courage. He will be heard. She turned to Eli. You wish for peace, human guardian. Yet my people bleed from human weapons. My soldiers still count their dead. Tell me, Why should I believe that your kind can change? Eli swallowed. Because I changed. I was trained to see you as monsters, but I looked into your child's eyes and saw something human. The Queen's gaze softened for just a heartbeat, but before she could answer, a horn echoed through the hall, a deep, ancient call of alarm. Every warrior froze. A scout burst through the doors, panting. Your Majesty, the Scorn marauders have breached the border. The Queen's claws unsheathed instantly. How many? Hundreds, my Queen. They target the royal plains. Their ships are descending near the hatchery. A hush fell over the room. The hatchery, and where tigress cubs were raised, was sacred. Eli stepped forward. Then we go now, the council murmured again. He dares to command us? But the Queen simply nodded. Prepare the royal strike team. She turned to Eli. Guardian, you will come. You fed my child, and now see if you can protect others. The flames of the hatchery, the plains burned under the twin suns. Dozens of alien ships hovered in the distance, their weapons firing into the earth. The ground cracked, and nests of cubs cried from below the ruins. The Scorn marauders, reptilian raiders from the outer systems, had come for revenge. They hunted tigress cubs for trophies, and they killed without mercy. Eli followed the Queen and her soldiers across the battlefield. Plasma bolts tore the sky. The roar of tigress warriors filled the air like thunder. Captain Ryla threw Eli a weapon, a pulse rifle designed for human use. You'll need it, Guardian. Eli gripped it tightly, his heart racing. The sight before him was chaos. Alien warriors clashing in fire and smoke, claws tearing through armor. Then he heard it again, the same sound that had started it all. A cub crying. He sprinted through the wreckage, ignoring the shouts behind him. Inside a collapsed den, a small tigress cub was trapped under metal debris, wailing in fear. He dropped to his knees, using all his strength to lift the beam. It wouldn't move. He yelled through the smoke, "Help me here!" A Scorn soldier lunged at him from behind, massive, scaled, wielding a plasma blade. Eli turned just in time, blocking with his rifle. Sparks flew. The alien hissed, its teeth bared. Before Eli could react, a blur of gold crashed through the air. The Queen herself. She slammed the Scorn to the ground, claws slicing through armor like paper. Her roar shook the valley. Eli managed to pull the cub free, holding it close. Got you. You're okay. The Queen looked at him, blood and fire reflecting in her eyes. You risk your life for one cub? He nodded, panting. You did too. For a moment, time froze. The Tigress Queen, ruler of 1,000 warriors, and the lone human, covered in dirt and smoke, looked at each other through the chaos. Then she roared to her army. Protect the young. No enemy touches royal blood again. The Tigress warriors charged forward, their roars merging with the firestorm. The turning of the battle hours passed. The battle raged like a storm. Eli fought alongside the Tigress soldiers, his rifle humming with heat. For every enemy that fell, more came. But the Queen led from the front, unstoppable, fierce, divine. At last, when the sun began to set, the enemy's ships retreated into the clouds. The field was silent again, unburned, broken, but safe. Eli fell to his knees, exhausted. The Queen walked toward him, her armor dented and scorched. She looked at him quietly for a long time, then extended her hand. Rise, guardian of the pride, she said. Eli took her hand and stood. Around them, the Tigress soldiers began to bow, not to the Queen, but to both of them. He was no longer a stranger. No longer just a man who broke a law. He was part of their story now, the story written in the Codex of Life. The bond eternal that night, the palace was alive with firelight and chants. The Tigress sang their old songs and of courage, mercy, and rebirth. At the center of the great hall, the Queen and her daughter stood beside Eli. Sira, now healed and strong, leapt into his arms again, purring. The Queen placed her hand over both of them and spoke for all to hear. Let it be written in the Codex Prime, a human-fed life where death ruled. He fought beside us, bled beside us, and saved our children. From this day, the Guardian's name shall live among the stars. The hall erupted in roars of honor. Eli looked up at the glowing roof, carvings of ancient heroes, and whispered to himself, Guess humans aren't all bad after all. The Queen turned to him, her expression softer than ever. You changed more than fate, Eli Cross. You changed hearts. He smiled. And you showed me that even the fiercest hearts can love. The Queen looked at her cub, now nestled in his arms, and nodded. The galaxy is wide, human guardian, but perhaps not so lonely anymore. Final scene, the legacy of Codex. Prime years later, the legend of that day spread across galaxies. They called it the Codex Prime Pact, the first alliance born not from fear, but from compassion. And when travelers visited the Tigress capital, they would see a great statue standing in the royal garden, a human holding a small cub in his arms, the queen beside him, both looking toward the stars. The inscription below read, "When all strength failed, kindness won."